Hello and welcome to Five Things Friday APAC Edition, stroke General Edition. We're on the cusp. Today's Friday of two of the largest shows taking place. We've got Shoptalk Europe. So if you're in Europe, what a phenomenal event to attend. And then we've got the powerhouse of NRF in APAC taking place in Singapore starting on Monday. So, are you ready? Have you got your bags packed? Have you bought your tickets? Have you got your comfy shoes on? They are both jam packed with great content, with great insights. And I'm not just saying this because I have partnerships with them. I'm genuinely saying this because that's how I used to go to these events. I've been going to NRF for over 15 years, obviously in the US and the last 2 years in APAC. And I went to the second or first ever Shoptalk in Europe, which I always get it wrong, and I apologize if it was. I'm pretty sure it was in Denmark, in Copenhagen, just outside of Copenhagen, and it was awesome. I loved it. The energy, the atmosphere is phenomenal. Anyway, Five Things Friday. You're probably saying, "Where's Laura? Where is your co-host?" Unfortunately, she's not feeling well, so obviously you got to put yourself first always. And she's taking some time to recuperate. I think she's had a pretty busy week from what I can see. I'm not going to go into five things. We've got Reef that I'll introduce in a minute, and we'll go over to NRF APAC. And Reef's been living in Singapore for the last 2 weeks, and his sales director, I believe it's her birthday today, so happy birthday. What I want to do is start with a little video.
Unimaginable technology. They're decades old.
Yeah.
And so it's just common sense to at least think, surely there's something beyond these legacy products.
We have like magic intelligence in the cloud. If I wanted to ask ChatGPT something right now about something we had talked about earlier, think about what would happen. I would like reach down, I would get out my laptop, I'd open it up, I'd launch a web browser, I'd start typing, and I'd have to like explain that thing. I would hit enter and I would wait and I would get a response. And that is at the limit of what the current tool of a laptop can do.
So here's Sam Altman, Johnny Ive, two of the most iconic leaders in the world of tech, talking about how they're going to come together and reshape devices. Pretty much something like this, a mixed device, something that, as Sam Altman went to great pains in describing, a laptop experience, not a mobile experience, because he said, oh, if we were using ChatGPT runs on mobile. The ChatGPT app is pretty awesome as it stands. Yes, it's feature poor, but ability rich. But they're coming together. Their product is coming out next year, which leads me to wanting to raise a flag, a warning, to warn you, my listeners, who coincidentally in May, I had the phenomenal notifications from Spotify yesterday, 10,000 streams, 500 listeners on the Spotify platform alone, which when you look at a small retail community across the world, for me, it's phenomenal. I am so grateful and happy. But I want to sort of ring the bell, say, hey, are you paying attention? I think a lot of organizations are sleeping walking, either to being disrupted or left behind, but so are the workers. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, hey, man, my job's my job, I'm going to go there, I'm going to do my job, and then that's it, then probably you wouldn't be watching this, because if you know me, that's not how we turn up. We turn up to do our best, to live our best lives. And what AI is going to do to our work lives is going to be pretty severe, and in retail more than most other areas because of the margins. And so if you can cast your memory back to when Uber first came, and you can get across the city for a couple of quid or bucks or euros. You were getting Uber vouchers, were being left, right, and center. Come and 10% discount here, 20% discount there. Surge pricing hadn't really taken off. And then all of a sudden, throughout the years, because that was all funded by VC, the pricing crept up. And I've listened to a lot of founders. I've listened to a lot of startups saying, AI is magnificent. We used to have 3 developers, and now for $200 a month, we don't need two full-time, 60K a year people. So that's 120K saving. And I think, again, anyone who's been in the industry long enough, whether it's Adobe, whether it's any other sort of SaaS providers, Salesforce, at a very soon point in time, the pricing starts to change because the outcome that you're creating, i.e., 2 workers you're saving on their salaries, will be factored into the tool that you're using. And this isn't a stop using the tool. You've got to give up on using AI. Not at all. We are in the gold rush period of AI. So this is the opportunity, if you're a small business, to maximize your return on investment on AI. Or if you're a knowledge worker, to maximize your investment, because in the next, it may take long. I don't know. The pricing is a little bit difficult, but my assumption is in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll see an increase. As that increases, we'll see businesses also changing their operating models, changing their requirements, and wanting more humans in the loop, working with AI at pace. And I think that was another thing that I was reading from someone who was retiring on LinkedIn, that this, at pace term is being used now to sort of drive people in a really uncomfortable way, because it's sort of saying, we've got to go at pace. The market's going at pace. From my perspective, at pace is a passion-driven energy. And so therefore, if someone's driving you to do that, then obviously they don't understand your work, they don't understand you, or, there's a bit of a mismatch there, because you should be driving that yourself. And the world is going to change. So I think I'm super excited, because obviously to have some new technology hardware that will potentially replace laptops. I don't know. Again, I'm really curious about your thoughts on why they've gone after the laptop first, or maybe that's just to sort of take us off the scent. They're really not going to go after laptops, and they're going to go after mobiles and create a little pocket for all those. I think it was the where you put the headphone in and your AI comes to life. We're there. We're on the cusp of that. With all of the problems that brings, we're on the cusp of it. And as listeners of the retail podcast of 5 Things Friday, I want you guys to be prepared. And if there is anything you need to know, if you're curious or you want to have a conversation, just email me. I'll 100% small enough to respond personally and take an interest in helping where I can, as I think I've had to pretty much reinvent myself within my career significantly over the last 30 years. And so anything I can pass on, I'm willing to do. With that in mind, let's go over to Reef.
Hi, Alex. I live for these podcasts with you. It makes me feel happy and joyful.
Well, I'm sending you the virtual cuddle, because I remember at the end of the show last time you said, look, when anyone sees me, just give me a cuddle on the show. So I'm sending you that virtual cuddle.
So I think it's been a week, but I feel maybe 10 years older. But that's okay. We're okay.
You don't look 10 years old. You're looking still fresh and happening. So let's listen.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on.
So before I start I might throw this in. This is a bit unprepared.
Go on.
But today is MJ, my sales director's birthday. And tomorrow is obviously the last day of the week before the show next week. So if anyone wants to give MJ a birthday present, I reckon she's about $5K off her budget. So any sponsors out there who want to MJ?
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
We love that. We love that. Just give me a call, DM me. And I'll hook you up with MJ, and you'll make her day, because it's her birthday. And she's worked so hard for this, and so you'll make her really happy.
So you heard it direct from Reef. Make MJ happy with sponsorship, no?
It's one of the most important things in my life, You've got your sales directors happy, the world's a happy place.
Got you. I say happy wife, happy life, but I guess in your world, happy sales director.
Oh, absolutely, all pointing in the same direction. So when she hears this, she'll be up and about, because she'll be happy she got a mention.
Perfect. Well, listen, why don't we, obviously you're living in Singapore right now before the show starts next week. Yes. But tell me, what are your top 2?
My top 2 this week. One relates to my world at the moment in the show, and the other relates to doing business in our region.
Sure.
So the number one thing right now is ratios. And ratios as an organizer is really, really important. And so, and what I mean by ratios is the split of retailers, in our case, to non-retailers attending the event. So if you think about what's important to people who come to a show like ours, it's very much, okay, as a retailer, you come for 1, to learn and access content, right? 2, to shop. You're trying to find solutions for the problems in their business, but you don't want to be overwhelmed by vendors, right? And 3, you want to connect with your peers, particularly peers that are facing the similar challenges to you, right? So you can share a few war stories and compare notes, and quite often, you know, even recommend vendors, okay? Which is quite powerful, right? You know, there's nothing more compelling than meeting a retailer who's had a fantastic experience with a vendor, right? So that's really important. So if you've got more than 50% retailers, that's a good thing, because that means it's not stuck one way. So we're approaching 60% retailers to non-retailers this year's show, and I know that all of our exhibitors, that's really important. So if on the other side of the fence, that's our exhibitors and sponsors. That's everyone from Shopify to Adyen to MasterCard and all inclusive. Now, you can imagine how unhappy they are if it's just vendors on the expo floor.
It's a nightmare.
Well, they all know each other, so they don't mind catching up for a drink, but they can't really get any ROI. So for them, what's really important then is that they've got, you know, a bunch of bodies going past who's interested in their solution, and enough of them. So for me, that's the bit that we focus on now, because you need to quite often resist the urge as an organizer to sell tickets to everyone. And you'll see people do it differently. So, you know, in our world, if I'm marketing now and I want retailers, I'm highlighting what's on stage.
Yeah.
But if I'm wanting to get exhibitors and sponsors, or non-retailers, vendors, so to speak, industry partners as we call them, then I'm leading with who's coming. Who are the retailers that are coming? Because they're the different triggers, okay? So you'll see a lot of the stuff right now will be very much for us around, obviously, speakers for retailers, and then who's coming. So you'll see brand montages, because we've got a really good ratio this year. So I'm quite pleased with that. But, you know, you always got to keep an eye. If you're a retailer or a non-retailer coming to an event like ours, that's the thing. That's the watch out. And that's the basis of a really good event experience.
Okay, makes sense.
So number two for me is just really coming back to our region, Asia Pacific. Now, as we've talked about before, you know, more than half the world's customers, retail customers, are in this part of the world.
Right.
But it is extremely diverse. It's not a one-size-fits-all region. In fact, there is China, there is India, there's all of Southeast Asia, then there's Pacific. Yeah. And what that means is, and every country is its own sovereign nation, right? Yeah. So it has its own currency, it has its own culture. In some cases, multiple cultures. Have a good look at Malaysia.
Yeah.
For example, language, legislative context, and also infrastructure to get product to people, right? Everything's different.
Yeah.
And so what we've learned on our journey and really been immersed in this over the last little while has been about the whole ability to do business. We've seen big organizations try to turn up into markets and do it alone, on their own, and fail. I'm talking about $280 billion retailers coming into a SEA market and leaving with their tails between their legs.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about small fry. We're talking about, but this message is true whether you are a $50 million retailer or a $300 billion retailer.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things I want to do with the program this year is sort of deliver a session that embodies that and embodies how some of this diversity and the bridge has been crossed.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you don't tell the stories, then you don't inspire the next generation of retailers to do that. And this is the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning too. This is the thing I'm most excited about. If I see a retailer, you know, from Malaysia, setting up in Vietnam because I've met someone at my show. That is extremely rewarding for me personally. That's cool, right? And so for me, the session that's on that it sort of embodies this is on the afternoon of day 1, so on the Tuesday afternoon,
right?
And that's Ian Bailey. Now, Ian Bailey was the MD of Kmart in Australia, and Kmart is a power. It's not like the US; it's a powerhouse of a business. It's an $11 billion turnover Aussie business.
They've got various brands, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. So Kmart is an incredible place, but on its journey, it sells toys and Lego and all those sort of things. I think it's Australia's biggest retailer of Lego.
Got you.
I think something like 70 to 80% of Kmart's revenue is their house brand, Anko.
Right.
And Anko is everything from shirts, ANKO, Anko, everything from shirts to coffee cups, to linen, to kettles you can make a cup of tea with, to everything, right? To crockery and cutlery, everything, you name it.
Yeah.
And the story of how that product has come together is amazing, and how it's rebuilt and made this Kmart a dynamic and powerhouse of a business across Australia and New Zealand is fascinating. But then Ian's no longer the MD. He's taken on the role as global chair of Anko. So his passion is not changed. He still lives in the family. But he's taking the Anko brand to the world, to North America, to Europe, and to Asia.
Oh, okay.
And so
did you say it's ANCO?
ANKO.
ANKO.
Yeah, Anko. And so he has done a partnership in the Philippines, for example. Now, as you know, that Australia and the Philippines are a long way away geographically from each other, probably about, 8-10 hours by plane.
Yeah.
A completely different country. The Philippines is mostly cash economy. They're not so big on credit cards in the Philippines, unlike Australia. They have other payment mechanisms. Marketplaces like Shopee are pretty dominant there. But Anko has set up a retail operation under its own brand in the Philippines. But as I said before, you can't set up, if you're an Australian, you can't just turn up in the Philippines and set up a store. You've got to find a partner. So Ian's going to talk about that journey, finding a partner, finding like minds, going through that due diligence process, finding on the same page, and then doing this, launching a retail operation together.
Got you.
Right? And it's pretty cool, right? And so for me, his anecdote he used when I was speaking to him about his session was, sometimes as an Australian, you don't understand. And when your partner says, I'll take care of that, you nod and smile because they know what's important in their market, not you. Yeah. And so that development of relationship and trust over time through partnership is pretty special. And that's two very diverse markets. So that's a really cool story, and I'm really hoping.
And they're going to be going through that on stage.
Yes. So that's exciting because that's the story we want to highlight. We want to talk about this, and you can see. I think for me in partnership, probably the most successful Asia Pacific country, right, in the region is Japan. Yeah, and Japan, is North Asia, so it's very formal and has protocol. Yeah. Yet they have been more successful, I think, than any other country with Aeon, Fast Retailing or Uniqlo, Muji, PPIH, who I was on stage with last year. Yeah. To expand through the region and build partnerships in each of the markets, Indonesia, Malaysia. Yeah, some fantastic, but but they are well established. And as you know, in Japan, they are long-term players. Yeah. So they are the benchmark. Yeah. But I'm really excited about Ian's session.
That's fantastic. Well, look, listen, I look forward to not long now. It's like
4 days or so.
Sleeps.
Yeah.
4 sleeps.
What is it? What day is it again? I don't know.
We're almost there.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'll be there. I'll be there one of these days soon. It's okay.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'll get to give you that cuddle.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, Reef, thank you so much.
And no worries. And just remember, don't do it for me. Do it for MJ. All right. Thank you, Alex. I look forward to seeing you in Singapore, my friend.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Reef. Happy birthday. And I wish I could pronounce it. Thank you, Reef. Happy birthday to your wonderful sales director. I will maybe bring you something from Spain or UK. Definitely not the miserable weather, but I hopefully get to share in the joy of your birthday. And so with that, I wish you a happy weekend. Have fun at Shoptalk or NRF. Let me know how you get on. And then hopefully next week, we'll be back with the wonderful Laura and Reef. Until then, have a fantastic week.